And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the meeting that the Federal Reserve had today. And if you are a follower of mine and you've been following me for a while, you would know that I've been telling you that there's absolutely no way that the Federal Reserve can continue to keep raising interest rates for a prolonged period of time without breaking other things in the economy and or in the global economy. Because what we're witnessing right now is that the dollar is starting to spike, but other currencies are actually starting to drop against the dollar. The Japanese yen has fallen 20%. The British pound has fallen over 14%. And what's starting to happen, as I told you what happened, is that just week ago, month ago, you had the Bank of England talking about how they were going to do quantitative tightening and how they were raising interest rates and trying to follow in the footsteps of the Federal Reserve. And then what happened is that their currency now is falling so much that it's starting to put contagion, and the domino effect is starting to happen within their banking system. And right on cue, guess what they did? They started doing what? Quantitative easing and going out and buying up bonds and injecting liquidity into different, aspects of their financial system. And this is exactly what I said was going to happen here at the Fed. The Fed is going to keep raising interest rates until things start breaking over here. As I told you, and I've said this before, what you're going to start to see is that states and the federal government, they're going to start having problems with raising enough tax revenue to fund itself. And what starts happening, because you have to think about it, if the Fed is trying to basically destroy demand, right, because they're feeling that because we don't have enough supply because of the pandemic and that we're having so much demand and because the economy is so strong that it's causing inflation. So effectively what they want to do, they're not going to come out and say this directly, but the Fed wants to basically make unemployment rise and destroy demand is effectively what they want to do. So to stop the consumer from consuming. But what you have to understand is that if the consumer stops consuming, then that's less sales tax revenue that states are going to be able to collect. And then understand that if the consumer starts going on consuming, then that's going to damper stock prices because stocks are going to get less revenue. Well, if stocks are getting less revenue, right, and then stock prices start to fall, well, then what happens to, if companies are getting less revenue, then their stock prices starts to drop. Well, if their stock prices starts to drop, that means investors now have less capital gains. Well, if investors have less capital gains, then the states and then the federal government gets less, actual capital gains tax revenue, right? So at the end of the day, it just becomes this doom loop that starts to happen. And then what's happening now is you have Credit Suisse and Deutsche Bank starting to have problems where their credit default swap spreads are starting to blow out, meaning they're starting to get wider. And understand, why is this happening? Because banks effectively, and this goes back to what I've been saying for so long, is that debt is money. And the only way that banks can make money and the economy can grow is to issue more debt. But they have to issue debt at very, very low interest rates because they already have a tremendous amount of debt. So what it's forcing the consumer, the investor, and the banks to do is lever up. Well, what do you think starts to happen? Interest rates have risen to 3.25%, 3.25%, and we're already starting to see foreign currencies start to dwindle and go lower. We're seeing a dollar start to spike higher, and now banks are already rumbling that they're having problems. So could you imagine if we get to an 8% Fed's funds rate? Because effectively the Fed funds rate sets the price of money, right? So if it's more expensive to borrow, it's going to discourage people from borrowing. We're already starting to see 30-year mortgage rates get up north of 7%. So understand, we're only at 3.25%. So what do you think the economy is going to look like at an 8% Fed funds rate? See, when you start understanding these things and looking at this from more of a macro perspective, you understand, can they keep raising interest rates for another 3 months, 6 months? Absolutely. But at the expense of what? So if you read books like The Creature from Jekyll Island, you're not worried. You understand this is right on par and on cue as to what happens. The Fed has to talk tough. They have to defend their credibility in the institution. but at the expense of what? And then eventually they're going to have to reverse course. They're going to have to cut interest rates. And eventually the Fed's going to end up going towards negative interest rates. Then when you look at what's happening in the foreign currency market and FX markets, understand that the dollar is the world reserve currency. See, this goes back to the petrodollar system. So now effectively what's happening is that the rest of the world is experiencing inflation just like the US is. But the problem now is that because the Fed is changing monetary policy, their currencies are dropping against the dollar. So now think about what that's going to do to businesses that do business abroad. That's going to hurt their revenues. Why? Because they have to convert a fallen currency like the British pound or the Japanese yen back into dollars. Well, that's going to eat into companies' revenue. And then now what you have to start thinking about is that's only going to create more inflation for those local currencies and economies, because the value of those currencies are dropping against the dollar. So again, you could think of it like pressing on a string, right? If you have a string is very, very thin. So you're never going to be able to exert the right amount of force, because what's going to happen is you try to put out a fire over here, what the Fed is trying to do. Like, remember, we had the pandemic, so they had to inject all of that liquidity into the markets. Well, then you caused a whole bunch of inflation over here. Now you're trying to come over here and you're trying to fight inflation over here. You're causing liquidity problems globally. You're causing more inflation globally. So no matter what the Fed does, they're going to keep causing problems in other segments of the economy or in other countries within the global economy, which is eventually going to force the Fed's hand. Now, you have the talking heads coming out and they're saying things to you like, oh, don't worry, this wasn't an emergency meeting. This was just a normal meeting that they have. And understand, it's not normal, right? What they're one thing I've learned about politicians and public figures, even CEOs of companies and corporations, is that where there's smoke, there's definitely fire. And what they're going to try to get you to believe is that, oh, you don't have anything to worry about. Everything's under control. These are the same individuals, mind you, who said inflation was transitory. And now they want you to believe that inflation went from transitory to now we're having the highest level of inflation in over 30 years. Now, all of a sudden, they have the tools to be able to rein in that inflation. Again, can they be serious about trying to fight it for the next quarter to a next year? Absolutely, they can try. But all they're going to do is set up for a bigger and a larger amount of fiscal stimulus and monetary stimulus on the back end. And eventually, we're going to end up going towards negative rates. So I have a lot of information to get into today. Please do me a favor, like this video, share this video, make sure that you subscribe and you click on that notification bell and you set it to all so that you can receive notifications when I go live. Now, if you've done that already, if you did that already and you have not received the notifications, here's what I need you to do. There is a number in the description below. You are going to text the word YouTube to that number, and it is going to add you to my text message list so that when I go live, I'm going to actually send you a text message letting you know, hey, I'm going live. Also, a link to follow me on my Instagram page is in the description as well. Please be mindful that there's a lot of people out here impersonating me, creating fake profiles. I would never reach out to you first. I would never try to ask you about your trading or anything of that nature. If you are interested in the investment opportunities that I have, the number that's in the description below, you are going to text the word invest to that number, and then I'm going to send you a video breaking down the investment opportunities. The video is actually linked to this YouTube channel. So please be mindful and kind of verify that you're actually talking to me or you're on the correct channel or you're on the correct Instagram page. Again, my Instagram page is in the description below. If you want to do business with me and invest with me, my number is in the description below. You text the word invest to that number, and then I will send you a video breaking down the investment opportunities. And the last thing, I am the founder and creator of My Tech Academy, where we cover all things Web3. So if you're interested in crypto, how to buy, how to sell, how to store, NFTs, DeFi, you name it, simply go into the description below. We have a free 3-day trial. You're free to come and check it out for 3 days. And if you like it, you're welcome to stick around. With that being said, all of the housekeeping is taken care of. Guys, please type one in the chat and we can get started. Great. So I want to read a little bit of this article and then get into what's happening with the BOE. So it says, the Fed is breaking things. Here's what has Wall Street on the edge as risks rise around the world. As the Federal Reserve ramps up efforts to tame inflation, sending the dollar surging and bonds and stocks into a tailspin, concern is rising that the central bank's campaign will have unintended and potentially dire consequences. Markets entered a perilous new phase in the past week, one in which statistically unusual moves across asset classes are becoming commonplace. The stock sell-off gets most of the headlines, but it is in the gyrations and the interplay of the far bigger global markets for currencies and bonds where trouble is brewing, according to Wall Street veterans. After being criticized for being slow to recognize inflation, and I want to stop right here. Think about this now. I've been talking to you about this now for years. I've been ahead of the curve about inflation coming, and now what's going to happen is we're going to experience some brief deflation before we get the massive inflation on the back end. And what's amazing to me is that, like, when we sit here and we read these articles, understand I am not like other platforms who can simply sit up here and read the news to you as to what's currently happening. I'm forecasting ahead as to how you should be looking to position yourself, right? Because remember, the whole purpose of this is about financial literacy, investing, what you should be thinking about moving ahead. So if you go back and watch my older videos, I was talking to you about buying gold 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I was talking to you about investing in crypto 4 years ago, right? Now, we're in a world where we're going to be experiencing a lot of volatility. So there's going to be moves, explosive moves to the upside and downside. There's going to be a lot of volatility. This market right now that we're going to experience is going to be a market suited for people who know how to trade, right? So if you are looking to make money in this market, you can definitely play in the options world. You definitely can play in the perpetuals if you want to go in short futures contracts. This is not a market that I would kind of be looking to go extremely long on right now. Or if I was looking to go long, I would be looking to layer into positions, meaning that, like, okay, every 15 to 20% that we get a drop, I'll be looking to buy in from that perspective. But I would not be looking to go completely long right now at today's current prices. And this is where the investment opportunity comes into play. And of course, I'm going to pitch you on it because in a market like this is not a market to get cute in. This is the market to find someone that knows what they're doing and go invest with them. But anyway, after being criticized for being slow to recognize inflation, the Fed has embarked on its most aggressive series of rate hikes since the 1980s. From near zero in March, the Fed has pushed its benchmark rate to a target of at least 3%. At the same time, the plan to unwind its $8.8 trillion balance sheet in a process called quantitative tightening, or QT, allowing proceeds from securities the Fed has on its books to roll off each month instead of being reinvested, has removed the largest buyer of Treasurys and mortgage securities from the marketplace. That is very key because, see, this goes back to what I was saying to you guys earlier. You get these, these positive and negative feedback loops back and forth, right? So where if the Fed is injecting liquidity, simply going and buying government debt and going and buying up mortgage-backed securities, well, effectively, you have a buyer of last resort, right? So that allows the government to go out here and spend foolishly because they know that they have the Fed behind them, backstopping them, right? But that becomes a problem, right? And I understand, the way that interest rates are calculated is that if you have a lot of demand, then interest rates goes down, right? And then if you have a lot of supply, then interest rates go up to make it more attractive for people to want to come there and basically park some money. Also, the Fed funds rate has a lot to do with interest rates as well. Well, now what's happening is that because the Fed is raising rates, the rest of the world is fleeing to the US dollar. They're selling stocks to come to the dollar. And that's going to become a problem for governments because now when we come here, and this goes back to exactly what I've been saying to you guys before, you can simply look at this. You can see the federal spending and you can see the US federal budget deficit. Now, the previous year, I believe it was 2020, it was about $3.5 trillion in regards to the federal budget deficit. Now we're at $1 trillion. I expect this number to get up to about $2.5 trillion, if not maybe $3 trillion before the year is over. Meaning that they're not going to have enough tax revenue to actually cover what they're spending. And we already can start to see this happening over here. Now remember, I'm not reading the news to you like other platforms. I've been forecasting this. I'm simply using these articles as a reference point to show you I know what I'm talking about. Now, look at this. It says state sales tax receipts decline as inflation pinches pockets. Half of U.S. states saw declines in sales tax revenues in June. Overall growth dropped to 1.5% in June from 12.3% in January. States once flushed with revenue from surging sales tax collections are starting to see inflation-related declines, signaling state revenues may continue to drop. The number of states that saw year-over-year declines increased to 25 in June from 16 in May, according to the Urban Institute. That declining performance, which is analyzed over a 3-month rolling average, follows a strong first quarter for sales tax receipts in which nearly every state saw growth in real terms, while state coffers remained buoyed by high sales tax collections this year and record income tax receipts in 2021. Why did we see record tax receipts in 2021? Because of what? We were in a bull market. We were in a bubble. We were in a debt-fueled bubble, right? And a liquidity-fueled bubble. Now, changing consumer spending patterns and high prices have triggered a decline in revenues for one of the state's key funding sources at the same time as stock market volatility threatens income tax collections. Now, again, this is in September. This was on September 27, 2022. If you go back and you watch my videos from a year ago, I told you this was going to happen. I told you this exactly was going to happen, and it's playing out exactly how I expected it to play out, whereas the Fed's trying to get tough on inflation, and what it's going to do is, again, now we're going to get the negative feedback loop because now, as I said, it starts to spiral because, again, if the consumer stops consuming, that's less sales tax revenue. If you have less sales going on, that means less people are spending money in businesses. Well, if businesses are not making enough money, remember, your consumption is someone else's job. So if they stop consuming, then the business now has to lay off individuals. Why? Because they don't have enough money coming in. Well, now if you look at publicly traded companies, if they start to see a dip in spending from the consumer, that's less revenue coming to them. What does that do to earnings per share, right? That means that they're earning less revenue. Therefore, the value of their stocks are going to go down. Well, if the value of the stocks goes down, then investors are making less money. That's less capital gains that the capital gains tax revenue that the government's going to be able to receive. It just becomes this negative feedback loop all over again. So now, and this goes back to the price of tomorrow, is that the only way the economy can grow is to get people going into debt, right? So whether it's you buying a house, which is debt, whether it's you using your credit card and buying cars and traveling, which is more debt, right? So debt fuels the bubble. And then when you start understanding fractional reserve lending, right, that debt then becomes money in someone else's bank account, with another bank just simply levers all up all the way over again. So you get this huge amount of leverage in the economy. Now what happens? Okay, the bubble pops, people can't pay their debts. Okay, people start to default, businesses go out, the whole cycle comes, you cleanse, you wipe the board out. The problem is most of the debt is still there. So the only way the economy can grow now is you have to issue twice as much debt. You have to issue just enough debt to get back to the normal level, and then you have to issue more debt beyond that to get the economy to grow again. So it just becomes this, again, it's a positive feedback loop when things are growing, the economy's flourishing, but that's actually part of the problem. And Peter Schiff talked about this in great length, although I really wouldn't listen to anything Peter Schiff has to say beyond his takes on the economy. Because when it comes to investing, Peter Schiff has just been absolutely horrible when you look at a lot of his investment ideas. So anyway, let's finish reading this article. It says, the initial phase is what we expected, that the tax will be strong because of inflation, said Lucy Dadden, a senior researcher at the Urban Institute. But we also expected that down the road, consumers are going to cut back on their spending. As of now, reduced spending is not necessarily worrying for states' fiscal health, Catherine Lawhead, a senior analyst at the Tax Foundation, wrote in an email. This is because sales tax revenues were widely expected to decrease after seeing a boost in 2021 due to federal stimulus and a pandemic-era shift to consumption of goods over services, Lawhead said. Overall sales tax collections remain above pre-pandemic baselines in most states, even if the rates have slowed, but states should ensure they have enough reserves in the event that more concerning revenue declines occur in the future, she added. And again, what we can take away from this is that they're not prepared. And we see this all the time. They are not prepared. And I can already see in a scenario where the Fed's going to have to start creating lending facilities for states. I can already see it happening, where they're going to have to start creating some type of a program over the next year or two. Because again, we have an aging population. People require more services as they get older. People are more dependent upon government, especially as we have more technology coming in and more automation replacing a lot of jobs. And then the wages that people are earning, they're not keeping up with inflation. So it's only a matter of time before I see some type of program put together to help out consumers, to help out the everyday person. This is where the concept of UBI comes into play, universal basic income, where the government's going to basically give you, $600, $1,000 a month, which again is going to be more inflation, because where's that money going to come from? And then right on cue, we have the Bank of England's man says the sterling inflation and energy influenced her rate hike vote. So the Bank of England policymaker Catherine Mann said her vote last month to raise the bank's rate by 0.75 percentage points or 75 basis points reflected her concerns about a weak currency, rising inflation expectations, and the boost to household incomes from an energy price gap. So effectively, they're trying to get tough on inflation. Now, think about this. This was just last month. They're over here talking about they want to fight inflation and they want to get tough on inflation. And then here we go now, a month later, and they're already injecting liquidity into their banking system. The Bank of England's Monetary Policy Committee was split three ways when voting to raise rates last month, with the majority supporting a half-point rise to 2.25%, while Mann and others backed 2.5%. And new member Swati, I'm not even going to try to say the name, sought to increase to 2%. Mann said her vote was driven by factors that have been building over the course of the year, including how tighter U.S. monetary policy had tended in the past to weaken sterling and increase British inflation, which is now near a 40-year high. So that's then, and then boom, here we go here. The UK bond liquidity barely improves. UK bond liquidity barely improves after the Bank of England intervention. So it says the spread between the bid and ask price of the British bonds, reflecting the ease of trading in such debt, was only slightly tighter on Thursday than at its peak before the Bank of England intervened to calm markets. Data from ING Bank, citing TradeWeb, showed this suggests conditions in Britain's government bond market remain tough after the rout triggered by last Friday's mini budget and unfunded tax cuts. That is exactly what's going to happen over here. What's happening with the Bank of England is exactly what's going to happen with the Federal Reserve. They tried to raise rates and follow the Fed over there, right? Because their currency, if you look at these currencies against the dollar, all of the currencies are falling. The Canadian dollar, the Australian dollar, euros, British pound, and the Japanese yen. So what's happening? Other central banks are saying we want to be like the Federal Reserve. We want to try to fight inflation. Okay, great. But you're not the reserve currency of the world. So now what starts happening is that once they start trying to tighten and do QT and do raise rates, what starts happening to their bond markets, right? Now you start to have liquidity problems. Look what's happening with Credit Suisse. Look what's happening to Deutsche Bank right now. Now, don't also forget that a lot of pension funds, right, they're banking on being able to actually make this passive income from buying into a lot of these governments' debt, right? Well, if you have fallen currencies and fallen interest rates, that's going to be a problem, because now how are they going to be able to meet the demand of being able to give the people who invested into these pension funds their return, their expected returns, because they need to at least make more than 8% on an annual basis. So you're starting to see that there's going to be a lot of problems with as the dollar continues to get stronger in other places. So that's going to force now the Fed to have to reverse course. Why? Because they're causing pain throughout the entire global financial system, right on cue. And as I said, you guys, it's only a matter of time before the Fed realizes, okay, we're making a mistake. So they can try to spin today as if it wasn't that serious, as this wasn't an emergency meeting, but it pretty much looks like an emergency meeting to me. Now, we have to also be smart enough, right? Very, very smart, and understand that be very careful of listening to people on Twitter, because one thing about black swan events, or whenever you have some type of a collapse of a bank, no one really knows that it's going to happen, right? I promise you, like, everyone on crypto Twitter is not going to be talking about it, right, before it happens. The same thing happened with, Evergrande or Evergrande, the Chinese company that was, basically out here building a bunch of homes. Remember, everyone was talking about how, China was going to collapse just a year ago. Remember, just a year ago, all of these crypto YouTubers were telling you that, China's going to collapse because of all of the commercial builders, that they're overdeveloping the developers out there, and that so much of the Chinese economy is tied to real estate. Now, that doesn't mean that China's not going to slow down and China's not going to have a problem, but they like to sensationalize things to get you to believe that the sky is falling and, oh my God, we have to hurry up and sell everything. Be mindful of who you listen to and what you listen to, and understand that everyone on the internet has an agenda. And most people's agenda is clicks and views. So they're going to promote things and talk about things that's going to drive a lot of traffic to their particular pages. Now, I see Dame Dash here. Speaking of liquidity, you'll be sipping liquid meals for a whole season after I tap your jaw for mentioning my name. Thank you, Dame. I can always depend on you coming here to talk about tapping my jaw when we're talking about what's happening in FX markets. But, leave it up to Dame to definitely come here and talk about tapping the jaw when we're talking about Federal Reserve and monetary policy. Just goes to show you, Dame, you're kind of out of touch, brother. But I know that's not Dame. That's someone pretending to be Dame. But, thank you for the $5. I definitely appreciate it. But back to what I was saying to you, it's very important that you do not allow people to sensationalize and scare you, right? Because one thing about, they're going to put the thumbnail up like, scary, to get you to click on these things. And every 5 minutes, they're going to be trying to sell you fear. They're going to be trying to sell you doom and gloom. There's a lot of money to be made in these markets from the short side and from the long side. There's going to be a lot of volatility in the markets going forward. And if you know what you're doing, you're going to have a lot of opportunity to make money. Now, another thing, right? Excuse me. So I found this interesting. This article was sent to me by one of my students in the academy. And it says, Australia's central bank has equity wiped out by billions in bond losses. Listen to this. This is just funny to me. Australia's central bank on Wednesday said its equity had been wiped out by losses suffered on pandemic-era bond buying. But its ability to create money meant it was not insolvent and would continue as normal. I want you to think about this. I want you to think about this for a second. So, effectively, they were buying bonds, right? And basically the equity got wiped out. So they printed money to buy these bonds. And now what they're saying is that, but its ability to create money meant it was not insolvent and would continue as normal. So they printed money to buy the bonds. The bonds are now worthless. And now they're going to print more money. So, right, this is right. This is just right. I want you guys to understand that this is not something that's, restricted or reserved to one particular bank or one particular central bank or one particular country. This is happening all over the world. And now this is where crypto is going to flourish. Follow me here. What you're going to see is foreign currencies, FX markets start to collapse, right? And then you're going to see the dollar strengthen. And then what's going to happen is, because all of the foreign currencies, they're indebted, right? Their governments have large amounts of debt, high amounts of inflation. And then what's going to happen is that the Fed's going to be forced to have to try to monetize the debt of the rest of the world and try to reinflate the bubble, which is going to cause the dollar to collapse and crash. So now you have foreign currencies crashing, right? They're crashing into the dollar. And then the dollar's going to crash into the foreign currencies. And then we're going to get some new form of currency, right? Some new medium of exchange. Now, this is where Russia and China comes into play, because everyone's sitting here. And this is why you have to be careful when you listen to these platforms try to talk to you about China collapsing. See, one thing about Western media is that they're never going to tell you the truth. We do not have real news here. We have propaganda. So what they want you to believe is that somehow Russia is struggling to defeat the Ukraine, and that somehow China, right, they have an aging population because of the one-child policy, and because now China's struggling. No, what's happening is the BRICS, right, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, they're getting together, and they're realizing that they have the oil, they have the natural gas, they have the natural resources, and they're looking to create their own currency, right, by getting away from the US dollar. Don't forget, Saudi Arabia now is talking about creating products to sell their oil with the yuan. So all of these things are happening on a macro level. So if you're a person that's watching these things unfold, don't listen to these other platforms who try to how you believe that somehow Russia is struggling against the Ukraine. At any moment, if Russia wanted to, they could drop a nuke on them and end it if they wanted to, right? But obviously, they want the land. They don't want to destroy the land, right? So they don't mind going through this, quote unquote, for lack of a better word, a civil war with them to eventually starve them out and get the land. But don't forget that Russia, China, Brazil, and India, they're working together to do their own thing. So it's very important that we start watching these things. And then now look what's happening with natural gas with Putin and how he's basically starving out the rest of Europe. So when we start looking at the entire chessboard and what's unfolding here, this is the perfect play now for things like Bitcoin to thrive, right? So what I see happening with crypto is that because we have a lot of, hedge funds and institutions, et cetera, levered up into crypto, I see crypto being just as volatile as the stock market short term, meaning that, a lot of these institutions are going to be forced to have to raise liquidity, which is going to probably have to force them to sell their stocks and force them to have to sell their Bitcoin into the dollar. But then eventually, once the Fed reverses course and they start that inflationary period, you're going to see a lot of people start looking for alternatives to the US dollar. And this is where crypto is going to shine. And that's why I believe that the next bull market that we experience in crypto is going to be explosive. And this is why you have to be focused on projects that have real world utility and application, looking at things like Chainlink, HBAR, DAG, what's another one? Quant's doing really, really well over the previous month. These are things that you should definitely be looking up and looking into in regards to going forward. And like I said before, I would not be looking to go extremely long in this market right now. I'll be looking to trade this market. If I'm looking at this market right now, or I would be looking to build a position in this market, I would be very hesitant about going all in, because I do believe that, as I said to you guys before, we have to see more institutions go bankrupt in order for me to feel comfortable to really step in a large way. So Credit Suisse is good. That's definitely something I would want to see like go under or need a government bailout, even Deutsche Bank. But I want to start also seeing some U.S. institutions getting in trouble. Definitely. Someone says, what if if you're already in, then you might as well hold your positions, right? Like, think about this. I see people make this mistake all the time when they're investing. Okay, you purchase Bitcoin at $60,000, right? Okay, you're already in. You're down, 60%. Why would you sell now? Why would you buy at the extreme top and again, please don't take what I'm saying negatively. Why would you buy at the exact top and then sell the close to the bottom? That doesn't make any sense. What you should be looking to do is averaging into a position. Look, like, again, you have to ask yourself, are you a trader or are you an investor? If you are an investor, you should be understanding that we're going to experience a lot of volatility over the next 6 to 12 months. There's going to be volatility in the market. As the market begins to restructure itself, as we get into a newer economy in regards to, lowered expectations, that's going to happen. So if that's going to happen in that type of environment, most assets are going to trade lower. Real estate's going to go lower. Stocks will go lower. And crypto's going to go lower. So what you should be looking to do is absolutely, now someone says tax harvesting. Okay, tax harvesting makes sense if you have that type of capital. Most of you don't. Most of you are not in a position where you're going to buy something high, sell something low, and then buy it right back at the same low price to get the actual, to be able to get the tax incentives and benefits for tax loss selling. Most of you don't even have enough assets, and you don't have a business structured properly in regards to your entity to even be able to take advantage of that. But again, if that's your strategy, then go for it, right? Like, know what you own and why you own it. Know what you're doing and why you're doing it. The average person isn't doing that. I'm talking to the average individual right now that's sitting here and you holding assets that you purchased at the height of the market, the top of the bubble. It really doesn't make sense for you to be selling right now, in my personal opinion. I think that would be foolish of you. If anything, you should be looking to average into your positions as it goes lower, or looking for someone like myself or another individual who knows what they're doing and looking to partner with them and invest with them. And if you're interested in investing with me, a link is in the description below to join my Tech Academy, and my telephone number that you can text the word invest to is in the description as well. And I'll send you a video breaking down the investment opportunities that I have to offer. So now I'll take some questions and see what you guys are talking about. BitBoy on the stake now. It's brother Lark Davis. I plan on going live about that probably tomorrow or the following day. Guys, do not trust any crypto YouTuber or any crypto Twitter influencer or anyone on Instagram. What I will tell you is that I've been in this game for a very, very long time. Most of the projects that these people are promoting, they've been paid to promote. And they try to mask it and hide it as if somehow they're giving you a tip. And it may initially make you some money in the beginning, but eventually they all dump on you. Since I've been on this channel, I have not been paid to promote any cryptocurrency that I've ever spoken to you about. And this is exactly why I created my Tech Academy, so that I can fund myself in an ethical way to be able to do this, because understand that this stuff is not cheap. The microphone isn't cheap. The camera and the lens, they aren't cheap. The lighting here, the lighting that I have is well over probably like $4,000. The green screen, all of this stuff, the computer costs money. So it's better to create a business model that's ethical so that people are learning, they're getting value from you, and you can make money and fund yourself. What happens is a lot of these crypto influencers, they become greedy and they get offered $250,000, $500,000 to promote some of these projects in the token, and you become the exit liquidity. And what happened with the guy Lark Davis, based upon looking at his Ethereum addresses or the addresses that he has affiliated with these particular cryptocurrencies, is he's been dumping a lot of the tokens that he's been promoting to you, right? And it's the same thing that happened with XRP. And this is the exact reason why I'm not a fan of XRP, based upon the way that Ripple Labs treats the XRP token. Ripple Labs, the company, would not be a profitable business if they weren't dumping a token on you, right? So effectively, these things are very, very important. And this is why anytime someone's coming to you and they're trying to tell you to invest in something or buy something, you need to know what you own and why you own it. And most likely, if you're hearing about it in the middle of a bull market, you're probably too late to the party. So LA Ramon says, I texted that number several times and haven't gotten any show notifications or links for the coding and investing. Well, brother, I don't know what's going on. Maybe you are probably outside of the United States. And if you're outside of the United States, then that's probably why you're not getting the notifications. But Most people in the chat can tell you they get text messages from me about the other day we had our code along. I opened it up to the public. We're probably going to have another code along on Thursday. I'll open that up to the public, build some things together, and then I open these things up to the public, and then you come into the academy, and you can ask questions, and we can kind of build on those concepts, because you're not going to learn how to program from just coming to one of our code alongs. You can kind of learn a little bit here or there, but if you really want to get hands on and tutorials and things of that nature, you need to join the academy, and a link to join the academy is in the description below. We have a free 3-day trial. But again, if you're not receiving notifications via the text message, it's probably because either you just texted the wrong number or you're outside of the US. Quant going off. Thank you for the free game, Eli. Absolutely. I know a lot of you guys are making some real good money with Quant. Let's see what Quant's at right now. It's at $139. It's ripping and running. Look at this. It's been running for the last 3 months. We ran away from 58 all the way up to $58 all the way up to 140. So many of you guys are definitely making some good money. I'm waiting for H-bar and DAG to start taking off next. So those are the next 2 projects I have. Chris Swain, thanks for the donation. What would be your plan right now if you were starting over from zero in regards to investing, starting a business, and or a credit profile? So, okay, that's a great question. Let's start from a business perspective. If I was looking to start a business right now, I would definitely be looking. It all depends on what type of business you're trying to start, right? That's number one, very, very key here. But in regards to, building a business credit profile, the very first thing is that in order to build business credit, you have to have good personal credit. That's the only way because most banks and most unsecured lenders, credit card companies, they're going to want you to have, good personal credit and put up a personal guarantee in order for you to be able to go and get funding from them, get credit lines from them. So that's key right there. Now, what I will say to you, this is not most people say that you should not do this, right? Like I shouldn't be saying this publicly, but it works. And that's if you can get people to add you to their actual credit profile. So for example, let's say that, you have an aunt, an uncle, a brother, or a company, and they have, established credit histories of over, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, etc. And they have large credit limits of like 35,000 or 25,000. What they can do is add you as an authorized user. They're not going to give you a card, but they're going to add you as an authorized user. By you getting added to them as an authorized user, it builds out an actual credit profile for you. You're basically leveraging their existing history. Now, again, you should not be, I shouldn't even be telling you to do this publicly, but it works like a motherfucker, right? Because what's going to happen now is that if you don't have established credit, but a person does have established credit, what then happens now is that their 5-year history, their 10-year credit history becomes yours with that particular card. And if that card has large limits on it, it makes you much more attractive to go out here and get funding. Now, when you're looking to build out your business credit profile, you need to make sure that, number one, all of your documentation is set up correctly, meaning that you have the same address. Do not use a home address on your business documents. You need to be using like a virtual office. And I plan on doing a tutorial and training about this, using something like DaVinci and making sure, because what happens is most credit applications are done by the underwriting process is not done by individuals. It's done by an algorithm, by a computer. And depending on what zip code you have that virtual office in is going to determine how much funding you get. So, for example, when you're looking to get this virtual office, don't go get a virtual office in, a quote unquote urban area, right? It would make sense to go to a high net worth area and get that virtual office, because now you have the trade lines, your personal credit is cleaned up. Now, the next thing that you can do now when you're applying for funding is you want your business to look like a real business. You don't want it to look like something that's like a home-based business. And also, getting an actual domain name, like purchasing a domain name and having an email affiliated with that speaks wonders in regards to the professionalism, because if you have like a Gmail account, banks don't really take you serious, right? So that's very, very important that you have that. Another thing you can do is purchase an aged corporation, right? You can get a lot of funding if you go and buy aged corporations, because again, the EIN has been established for a longer period of time. A lot of banks love to see you have like, a business history of longer than 2 years. So that takes care of that from the credit side. Also, what I would say to you is that, American Express is one of the best places to go and get actual credit cards, because if you already have a personal credit account with them, you can apply for multiple credit cards from like your business side and on your personal side. So, like for example, I have a where's my wallet at? I don't have my wallet on me, but I'll put up a screenshot on my Instagram. So I have a preferred Blue Cash as an individual on my social, and then I have a preferred Blue Cash on my EIN, on my business, because remember, your EIN is separate from you as an individual, right? So now what happens is that because I'm already a member of American Express, I already have one card, I can apply for 2 cards now at the same time, right? And now what happens, really I can apply for 3 if I wanted to, but because one's reporting on my social and others reporting on my EIN, or because I'm a member already, I don't get the hard inquiries, right? I also do the same thing with my Bank of America business account, right? Like with my Bank of America business account, I can apply for multiple credit cards at one time. And because I already have one credit card with them, I don't get multiple inquiries. So that's another thing that you can do. Also, utilize List Yourself, because what List Yourself is going to do is basically start building out a profile across a lot of these, websites and things like that. Having a professional number with Vonage matters. What else? What other tips can I give you in regards to? Definitely leveraging trade lines, leveraging other people's history, making sure you have a good virtual office, making sure all your documentation aligns with your virtual office address. Now, in regards to starting a business, there's a whole variety of different businesses that you can start. One business that I can tell you guys, and I'm planning on also, doing a tutorial about this, is creating a social media marketing agency. So, for example, if you go on Instagram, right, you have pages. I'm gonna show you a page right now since I got my phone in my hand. Give me 1 second. So this is like one of the easiest businesses that you can start. We go here to right here, prime example. So this page right here called Wealth, right? This is the page here called Wealth. All they're doing is taking other content creators' content and just turning it into reels and putting some type of a sound over it, right? Audio over it. So here we got this individual here. This person's here speaking, right? This is someone else's content. So now effectively, you can create a page where you take a bunch of motivational content. So for example, I'll show you, there's a page called Motivation 101, I believe. Motivation. Here we go. Alpha Motivation. So look, effectively, this is all someone else's content. All of this is other people's content. So you don't even have to go here and create content. You can go and find people like Patrick Bet-David, Robert Kiyosaki, Michael Saylor, and just simply watch their interviews, right? And then highlight certain time points and segments. Download that actual video. There's plenty of, just type in YouTube video downloader or Twitter video downloader or Instagram video downloader. And then you can get some video editing software like DaVinci or like Final Cut Pro, or even Photoshop allows you to be able to actually edit video. And then what you can do is you download the video, you have your timestamps, and you just simply cut out that 30-second clip or that 60-second clip. And then what you do now is you upload that onto TikTok, onto Instagram. You put a proper, description in there, your proper hashtags, and you can already start building a following. Make sure that you put the correct audio behind it. That's all you simply have to do. And you can really start building out a quote unquote social media brand by leveraging other people's content. Now, here's how you create a business around that. You can, someone like myself, I know that this is a legitimate business. You know why? Because I'm looking for someone to do this for me. Take my content and turn it into Reels, turn it into TikToks, turn it into YouTube Shorts. And then now you can come to that individual, like a person like a Pomp or Kathy Wood or myself, and say, hey, I took, your video and look at the Reels and Shorts I made for you. Look how I edited the video. I put the right filter over it. And you can basically charge people to edit their content for them. Why? Because when I create this 50-minute video or this 45-minute video, it's very hard for me to go back and watch the video and then cut this video up into different clips and put it on other platforms. It's just too time consuming. So now you can be the individual that do that. That's a business that you can literally start for probably less than $500, $1,000. That's extremely profitable. If you know how to edit content, you will make a lot of money. Don't believe me? Go and ask these content creators how much would they pay a person to actually go out here and do that. Now, this person says authorized user trade line is dead. Absolutely, it's not. I can tell you for a fact, Robert X is not dead. You know why it's not dead? Because I've used it recently. So I know for a fact that it's definitely not dead if you're using it the correct way. I hope that answers your question in regards to like a business to start. And the reason why I said that I would go that route with starting a business is because the barrier to entry is very low. In regards to the overhead and the amount of money you would have to spend to get started doesn't really cost you a lot of money, right? In regards to like all you really like, literally, you can literally edit videos and create content and take other people's videos right from your phone. Like, watch this. I'm going to go here and I'm going to type in download Instagram video. Literally, I type that in and look, you can even see the site that I've been using, iGram. Like I literally, what I'm telling you to do is things that I've already tested. And I'm already building some pages on the side just testing this out to see if it works. So it's called igram.com. You literally copy the Instagram link and you could paste it in there and download the video. And then you could strip out the audio. You could put filters over it, put your own audio over it. And then you could upload it as YouTube shorts. You could upload it on TikTok. And like I said before, that's a thriving business model, right? Being able to edit content for people is a huge business. Right? So if I was starting from zero, that's definitely something that I would be looking into doing because it doesn't require a lot of money to get started. And it's definitely something that's extremely lucrative if you're good at it. What I would say to you is that what you'll learn about anything within the digital world is that if you have skills pay the bills. Meaning, if you know how to build websites, if you know how to do Facebook advertising for individuals, if you know how to build out funnels, if you know how to do ad copy, coding is something really, really big. Like building web applications for people, helping people create their own NFTs. Like I said, content creation, content editing. These are knowing how to operate drones, knowing how to operate cameras. Like, people will pay you large amounts of money if you want to do this. Now, here's the beautiful thing. Let's say that you know what? I'm struggling with that. I don't really know what to do. Let me show you a trick here. Beautiful thing is, there's something here called YouTube. Let me show you, right? Anything you want to learn in regards to tutorials, you come here to YouTube. So you can simply go here and you can say, let's go Final Cut Pro tutorial. Boom. Right? And now you could come here and there's nothing but, look at this. There's an hour, this guy right here for 1 hour and 56 minutes will teach you how to use Final Cut Pro. Right? If you don't know how to use, let's say you suck at, so you don't know how to edit. Okay, boom, let's go here. Let's say you're going to buy a camera and you don't really know how to use a camera. You could go here, you could go Sony A7 video tutorial. Boom. And right here, bang. Right? So you got a camera, you don't really know how to use it. You got the tutorials right here. Learn how to use social media. If you learn how to use social media, you will be fine. Not complicated at all. Not complicated at all. So, I would just simply look at something I'm passionate about, something that I think could make a lot of money, and I would just simply go and use these things. RH says South Africa is a part of the BRICS as well. I don't look at Africa as leading anything. Africa's been colonized, right? So I don't. When I look at Africa, I don't look at Africa as being a global player. I look at Africa as being dominated like they've been being dominated. Like I don't see Africa making any roads in regards to having any say in the fourth industrial revolution. Brazil, Russia, India, and China, mainly Russia, India, and China, are going to rule the fourth industrial revolution. Africa's going to be where Africa's been. That's colonized and dominated. Thanks for the donation, Robert X. I'm an AU right now, and my score's been up. I'm an authorized user right now, and my score been up since. Absolutely. I got, like, guys, I'm telling you for a fact, like, these are things that I've used. Again, people will recommend. You're not supposed to openly say these things, right? Because obviously, it's going against the bank's policy. So I want to make sure that you know that up front. But it works. Because remember, most of the time when you're going for funding and you're in the underwriting process is not being conducted by an individual, it's being conducted by an algorithm. So there's certain points that they're looking for that you need to just check the box, right? So I'm not telling you to lie on applications. I would never tell you to do that. But if a person adds you to a trade line, it definitely boosts up your credit score, which then allows you to get funding very easy. Because once you're above a 680 credit score, especially if you have an established credit history, and your credit profile is diverse, like you have store cards, you have bank cards, you have an auto loan or home loan, that shows that you have a diverse credit profile. You're going to be able to get funding very, very easy. It's not hard. And like I said before, the beautiful thing is, like, once you're with American Express, you have that, that personal, that one inquiry. After that, once you start applying for other cards, you don't get the hard inquiries anymore, right? So that's one of the beautiful things about, like, Bank of America, Chase, especially when you have a business account as well as a personal account. So Jazz Virgo says, when Eli gets a question, he stays on it for years. Absolutely. You know why I stay on it for years? Because the person's paid me, right? So when someone pays me, I definitely make sure that I give them a valuable answer, because this person took $10 out of his pocket that he didn't have to pay me. So, if you want me to go into depth for things, you pay me, right? Like, prime example, like, I have consultations, right? So you can come and book a consultation with me, and I'll talk to you all day long and give you game and give you actionable information, give you tools, and give you resources. Now, if you don't pay me, then I'll get to the question when I get to the question, right? Simple. Right? Time is money, right? All of this around me costs money, right? I have to conduct these things. So if you want me to spend time on your question, throw something in the super chat. Mm-hmm. Hi, Eli. Does the Academy go over how to implement AWS into your node configuration? My team and I are looking to do something within the next 2 weeks. No, we don't cover that type of stuff. If you're trying to get into trying to run your own nodes and stuff like that, no, we don't cover that yet. That's something that's far out. We're covering some real basic stuff: HTML, CSS, basic syntax for JavaScript. We're, like, right now, we're up to building a to-do list, and one thing about me, I understand that technology is very, very foreign and new to most people. So I'll definitely I'll go much slower with people. But if you're looking for that advanced type of stuff, like I said before, my IT guy who I work with directly with my nodes, he's currently busy putting together an IT course for me right now. So he hasn't had the ability to take on some consultations, but in the future, I'll definitely be able to refer you guys to him. He's a beast when it comes to, all of the DevOps stuff. So when it comes to any IT stuff, he's an animal. So it's my IT guy. The person says, thoughts on the Binance burn of Luna Classic. Listen, man. If you are, if you're playing with Luna Classic, you're gambling. Simple. If you're touching anything with Luna, you're gambling. And listen, in crypto gambles, sometimes they work out. If you get Floki, if you get Dogecoin, if you get Shiba, it works out. And one thing about crypto is definitely because it's a speculative asset class by nature, and because these market caps are very, very low and thin, it doesn't take a lot to pump these things. But just be mindful that you're someone's exit liquidity, right? Like that these are not sustainable businesses or cryptocurrencies. These are projects that are, really being manipulated by some large players behind the scenes, and they're definitely looking to launder money and clean up their money. So just don't get caught holding the bag if you're going to play with the Luna Classic stuff and all that. We already know that CZ and Binance, they're some sleazy people. They're no better than Tether. One thing about crypto, I'll tell you, crypto seems to attract some of the lowest scumbags on Earth. Whether like literally some of the most unethical people you can think of, they seem to be attracted to crypto. So be mindful of that. Thoughts on holding Matic? I love Matic. You know me, I made a lot of money in Matic. Ethereum cannot scale. It will not scale anytime soon. So you're going to need Arbitrum, Optimism. You're going to need, Matic in all the layer twos. Matic is doing a lot of partnerships with some gaming studios. So Matic's going to be around for a very, very long time. I like Matic, and I don't see anything wrong with Matic. Someone says very true, very very true. They're bootlegging. Yeah, I don't see Africa doing anything. I don't see Africa doing anything on a global scale. Not at all. I get it, Eli, but that needs to change. Africa should definitely be considered a global world trader. Absolutely, they should. With the size of their population, the fact that they have a young population in certain countries, the fact that they have they have so much in regards to infrastructure that can be built, right? A world that can be reimagined, natural resources, they should be a dominant player. But again, what happens is that you have corrupt leadership. And see, that becomes one of the biggest problems. As long as you have leaders in power that are not really trying to build something beyond them. Like, see, that we could get into the concept of when you're really trying to be a titan, an industrialist, you want statues built of you when you die. You're thinking about the next 300 to 500 years. Like when you look at a lot of the great titans on Wall Street and industrialists in America, like they were thinking about the hereafter, like when they're dead. A lot of black leaders, and I use the word black for lack of a better word, right? Across the globe, they don't think beyond their flesh. They don't think about leaving a legacy behind them. Our ancestors did, right? Which is why they fought and died. Some of the great leaders that we had in the past, they definitely believed in building things bigger than them. But many of these people today, right, it's all about what they can extract and get for today. They think of self. They don't think of the people behind them, which is why we have, so many of the structural problems we have in this country, right? Which is why we have so much, and not just this country, but just, abroad. Wherever you go, you see black and brown people, you tend to see, a lot of problems. There may be little pockets of, success here or there, but collectively, as a group, we're not doing well. And that's just because our leadership, they don't think about people after it. And also, our people don't support strong leaders. That's something else that I've realized, too, about being a public figure, is how people, it is amazing to me. And I kind of got to go on like a little rant now because, talking. Let's wrap this up soon anyway. I was watching the pastor, Lamar Whitehead, right? The pastor who got robbed in Brooklyn. And he has like five members in his church, right? His social media platform was dwindling, had no platform. And out of the blue, he goes viral because he gets robbed, then he chokes a lady in church, and then he's beefing with the guy Larry Reed. And he goes from having 5 members in his church, maybe 20 people in his live streams, and now he has 600 or 700 people who are predominantly black people. And it just amazes me how people gravitate towards such bullshit. And literally, now he's getting donations, he's getting financial support. And it amazes me how I could sit here for hours and, give people actionable information, talk to you about grants that you can apply for, credit cards that you can apply for, and we'll get 300 people. Right? you may get a $5 donation here, $2 donation here. But yet this guy, he's driving in a Rolls Royce. This is a pastor or a bishop, excuse me. And he's driving in a Rolls Royce. He has on Louis Vuitton suits, Dior suits, Gucci suits, Cuban chains, diamond rings. And people are giving him hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars. Yet you got to go out here and make it on your own. It's amazing to me, just as a culture, as a community, how we gravitate towards such bullshit. The lowest common denominator, the lowest, there's no substance there. There's no substance there, but people gravitate towards it. I watch weirdos like Hassan Campbell, who will sit there, right? This is a man who clearly is a homosexual, and there's nothing wrong with being a homosexual, right? But he's a closeted DL homo who was in a relationship with Bambaataa, clearly in a relationship. I mean, hanging with this man till he's 30 years old, right? Who will come on these platforms, and he has no substance to his platform. Everything he says is absolutely hypocritical. He attacks gay people. He attacks all the other people. He attacks black people, everybody. And yet, but then I turn around and the same things that he's attacking, he is, right? It is amazing to me. And he has 500,000 subscribers. And he sits on there and literally gets drunk on live, right? And talks about the culture and talks about the community. And he'll have 12,000 people watching him live. He'll have 12,000 people. He's getting drunk on live, talking to you about, he can't even say the word mentality. He says mentality. And he can get 12,000 people to watch him. Right? It is amazing to me just what the culture likes. So why does this tie into Africa and stuff like this? There is something about us as black people that makes us attracted to bullshit. I don't know what it is. I've done read the Nelly Fuller books, the Claude Andersons. I don't know what it is about black people, but we are, for some reason, there is something that is in us that makes us attracted to absolute pure foolishness. And when a person comes to you with substance, is for some reason we reject it. Even if you look at the ADOS movement with Yvette Carnell and Antonio Moore, how they were pouring so much into the community in regards to politics and give you a political education, and how they had to go through so much to get people to pay attention to them, just for them to go now and that everybody's involved in FBA. It's mind-boggling to me, right? And it's discouraging sometimes, because you just look at it and you look at it sometimes, you just be like, you know what? I don't even want to fuck with this shit sometimes. That's how I be feeling sometimes. I get disgusted, just the state of the affairs. You just look at things on social media and people are like, oh, you a hater. It's not hating, because I'm not trying to attack their platforms or their brands. It's amazing to me that someone like Hassan Campbell can even have that following. But then I realize why he has the following, because he's entertaining, right? And what I've learned, I learned this from watching Charleston White, is that people love to see a train wreck. They love to see the drama, the beef. They love it. They live for it. Mm-hmm. Malik says the curses in the Bible have some truth in regards to black minds. Maybe. You know what I'm saying? Maybe. Bro, what day in November were you born? I was born on the 5th. Yo, I was in a Twitter space, and I was listening to the FBA people talk, right? And I was saying to myself, what would even Clubhouse, like I go in the Clubhouse room sometimes, because when I'm coding and I'm building things and stuff like that, I love to have stuff playing in the background. And I'm listening to the conversation that these people are having, and they're calling each other hookers and pimps and BRTCH this and mother F this. And I'm just saying to myself, one minute they're kings and queens, and then the next minute they talking about who's a snitch and who's an agent. And you're just what does this have to do with reparations? Nothing. So, you know what I'm saying? Amazing. Thank you, Jorge Diaz. Thank you for helping us get ahead of most. Most people still don't understand what inflation is. While I sit here and I put away more investment capital every time the Fed rate rises. QQ, what do you think is a good back end framework? Well, it all depends on what you're trying to build, and that's a great question. One of the biggest things that this goes back to social media too with algorithms is you'll always hear people talk about, like, this programming language versus this programming language. Well, that's like saying, do I want to hold on, my screen just went away. That's like saying, should I use this screwdriver versus another screwdriver, a flathead versus a Phillips, right? Like, well, it all depends on what the nail looks like, right? Or the screw looks like, excuse me, right? Depending on what screwdriver you're going to use, right? So the programming language and the frameworks that you use and the libraries that you use all depends on what type of application you're trying to build, right? Like, if you're trying to build a gaming application, well, then, there's a particular application there's a particular programming language you're going to use. So when you start thinking about a stack that you're going to put together, it all depends on, what application you're looking to build. That's the better question to ask yourself, because depending on the application you're going to build is going to let you know, for example, what stack you should be using. Now, me personally, from a web development perspective, I love to just use, the JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and then use Node.js, right? And then use something like SQL for a relational database, right? That just makes more sense to me. Or use something like Firebase, so that therefore it's easier to get my application out there and scale, right? So it all depends on what you're trying to build. And I think that that's very, very key in regards to how you're looking to build things, in regards to what application you're building and what programming languages and frameworks you use. I think that that's more important in regards to, like, how you're looking to build things. So like, even utilizing, like, React. So for example, like, if you come here and you can look at this, like a MERN stack, right? So this is something that you could look at, right? So you have, MERN stack stands for MongoDB, Express, React, and Node, after the 4 technologies that make up the stack. So there's different tech stacks that you would use to build different applications. It all depends on what you're looking to build. So that's my best answer I can give you. But me personally, I've used a lot of, in regards to, like, server-side languages. I've really mainly played around a lot with, Node.js. But you could definitely ask a little bit more if you want to, since you donated some money. I stay away from, like, PHP. Like, I don't mess around with PHP at all. I mainly use Python too. Like, I'm good in Python. So those are the 2 program languages I mainly talk about and I've actually built things in, is Python and JavaScript. Malik says I was born on the 12th. Absolutely. Congrats, my fellow Scorpio brother. Yeah, I don't touch PHP. Like, you like literally you won't see me touch PHP. It's not for me. Scotty Pimpin says, why do most of these YouTubers claim every month the bottom is in and nobody calls them on their BS when the market goes lower? Because they know that people have a short memory. And this is the last thing I'm gonna say too before I wrap this up. Like, I see people talking about XRP now, right? Like it amazes me. So we come here and we look at XRP, right? Right. So it amazes me. If we look at XRP, just look at this chart. Look at this chart. Just look at this goddamn chart. Let's make it bigger. And I want to say things sometimes. I really want to say things sometimes. So they're excited. So while crypto was booming, literally over the past 2 years, Ripple has been going down. And out of the blue, you get a 40, 50, 100% spike. You go from, 20 cents to 40 cents. And then all of a sudden now you have, the BitBoy cryptos and all these people talking about how, there's some new documentation the judge is requesting the SEC provide, and then all of a sudden now it starts pumping, and it's like, you guys don't get sick of these people pimping you. You don't get sick of these people bullshitting you and lying to you and manipulating you for likes and views to trigger the algorithm, right? The Ripple case was supposed to be solved, right? The Ripple case was, according to BitBoy, he said multiple times, the Ripple case should be ending soon, right? Here we are now, what, a year and a half later, and nothing's changed. Ripple is still rippling lower. And it amazes me how people just out of the blue now, like everybody's talking about Ripple now. And, they have all of these conspiracy theories. Like I said before, people don't hold these individuals accountable. Why? Because they're emotionally attached to their investments. Emotionally attached to their investments. And that becomes one of the biggest problems, is that it's very hard for you to, be able to use logic and reason because you are emotionally invested now. It's not just a financial investment, it's emotional. Like, for example, when I got burned in Bondly, I took my $20,000 loss and kept it moving. When I got burned in poker markets, took my loss and I kept it moving. I didn't sit here and come up here and tell you guys, oh, don't worry, the bottom's and it's going to recover. Like, no, I got burned. See, that's just maturity. And that's, as an investor, you're going to take losses, right? Like, the only way you can make more money is to deploy money. You got to put money out there. And when you put money out there, sometimes you take losses. That's a part of business. But what I'm not going to do is come up here and try to make it seem like, it's some conspiracy theory, like, Hinman and all these people are behind the scenes manipulating the price of XRP. Like, no, XRP is shit. That's it. That's the bottom line. XRP was shit. It's been shit and will always be shit. Because when they were creating the technology and they were partnering with the banks, no one wanted to use the technology, right? All of the people that they partnered with had to get paid to use the technology, allegedly, right? If your technology is good, if your product is good and it can really help banks, banks are going to adopt it. Why? Because banks want to make money. Shakima Smith says, I felt sorry for Hassan at first until I seen the pictures with him with the person he accused of assaulting him. Absolutely. Like, I know I keep saying I'm like the Hassan Campbell thing to me is just amazing. It's weird to watch, like a person who you clearly can see he's a liar, clearly, right? You clearly can see he's a clout chaser. You clearly can see like there's just so many like lies about him. Like, even how he's like always threatening people. Like, I was watching him talk about the guy 10 toes down and talking about, having, sexual relations with him and all that. But then somehow sit up here and you talk about gay people, but then you're saying gay things to other men. You see what I'm trying to say? Like, it becomes weird to me. Like, you bash, quote unquote, people for living that lifestyle, but then you go out here and make those gestures and references to other people. Like, it's just weird to watch. I promise you guys, it is weird to watch. So this is why, like I said before, I definitely I watch these things like from the standpoint, just like I kind of want to just get into the psyche of people. Like, why would you want to watch a Hassan Campbell? It's amazing to me. Your thoughts on Zcash? Zcash is it's okay. It in regards to the privacy features that they have, but it's not superior to Monero. And it's like, at the end of the day, if you're going to be using, now again, I haven't followed Zcash in a while, so I'm speaking off of old information that I have, right? From what I know about Zcash and just from initially looking at it, Monero's superior technology when it comes to privacy. So I would just go with Monero if I'm looking for a privacy coin. But with Zcash, I don't really have too much negative or positive to say, honestly. XRP technology is no different than HBAR. HBAR is 1,000 times better than XRP. Jazz Virgo says, Eli, please, last thing before you leave. Quick question. If America was to default on its debt, considering they are the ones who own it, aka the Fed, what would happen? How would that play out? Um, well, obviously, it would be destruction of a lot of wealth. Like, think about how many people's wealth is tied to the U.S. dollar. Like, think about it. You know, governments can always, reissue a new currency. Like, that's no problem. But who would have faith in it? Like, you have to think about that, right? Like, okay, if we have a default, right? Well, basically, the United States wakes up and says we can't pay our creditors because remember, China's buying foreign debt. You know, at one point Russia was buying it, but like of course Japan buys foreign debt. Pension funds buy U.S. debt. Like people are buying U.S. debt, and they're expecting to get the return from the interest that these bonds pay them. Well, if you default on your debt, right, what happens to the pension holders, the pension funds that are holding your debt, right? What happens to your entire financial system if at the end of the day, you know, you look at it and you say to yourself, okay, well, now you defaulted on your debt. We don't trust your currency anymore. We don't trust you as a government institution anymore. You've wiped out so much wealth, literally trillions of dollars worth of wealth. How do you think that's going to play out? It's going to be civil unrest. And do you think that if you issued the new currency, that people would have faith and belief in you? I wouldn't see that. Right. So like it'll be civil unrest. And now you got to think about the rest of the world being tied to the US dollar. It would cause just so much dislocation in the marketplaces. So if that ever played out, it would be severe in regards to like, just what it would do to the world, honestly. Now, I love too because that goes into modern monetary theory, right? A lot of people feel like, if our debt is denominated in US dollars and we are the reserve currency, well, we can literally just, print a $30 trillion coin and pay off our debt, right? But then like you have to think about all of the excess liquidity that's on top of that debt, right? And understanding that just because you can print more money, you can't print more corn and wheat and water and land and concrete, like things that are actually tied to the world, to the earth, right? So you can print as much currency as you want to, but then what does that do to consumption? What does that do to the planet? What does that do to the world, right? This is why we have inflation, right? So this concept that like, oh, hey, I could print $30 trillion and just pay off our debt. Okay, great. So then where's the $30 trillion going to go to? Because that $30 trillion went to consuming real things in the world that are not easily replaceable, right? Like there's a reason why we're running out of drinkable water and livable land. Like these things matter. So this concept that like you can just print your way into oblivion and it doesn't matter because at the end of the day we're the reserve currency. No, it does matter because there's a certain amount of livable space and livable land and drinkable water. So this concept that we could just print as much money as we want to, and as long as we have production behind it, that's just a foolish experiment that won't work. So look, um, uh, Malik Seller says BitBoy has literally been deceiving investors for years, pretending to get knowledge from inside sources, only to pimp you and pump his bags. Also, your thoughts on layer twos such as Moonbeam and Mover. So I got burned in Moon River. I'm assuming that's you talking when you said Mover token. I got burned real bad in Moon River. That was supposed to be on it was supposed to be the Kusama version of Moonbeam. So I got burned really, really bad. I made some good money in Moonbeam when it finally launched because I was able to get out of it in enough time. I think that Moonbeam is going to be great. That allows the Ethereum virtual machine smart contracts, the EVM. It makes basically Polkadot EVM compatible. So if Polkadot begins to take off, being able to bridge over and bring over a lot of the Ethereum ecosystem is going to be really, really smart in regards to just having liquidity and having that synergy. The problem with DeFi right now, though, is that DeFi is not going to take that next leg forward and that next step up until we figure out a way to bring real world assets onto the blockchain. We'll also learn how to bring identity onto the blockchain and create lending and borrowing where a person can use like their credit score and their assets that they already have. A Chainlink is working on something like that because one of the biggest problems with the blockchain is that everything is public and open. And obviously, you don't want your credit score to be public and open on a blockchain, right? You don't want your net worth to be public and open on a blockchain. So we have to figure out a way to get that data into smart contracts or onto the blockchain in a privacy preserving way. So I think that that's when you're going to see DeFi really start to boom, not just on Ethereum, but on other ecosystems, whether it's, Phantom, Avalanche, Polkadot, Near, etc. is when we can start tokenizing real world assets. So if that my reason for saying that is that if someone can figure out that, things like Moonbeam are going to be big in regards to everyone being able to bridge, because I believe that Ethereum is going to be the hub, and you're going to have all of these other EVM chains being able to kind of bridge over to Ethereum and be able to move assets and value and liquidity back and forth. Interoperability, absolutely. 100%. And composability as well. Mm-hmm. No problem, MHC Boxing. Appreciate that. Yeah, Chainlink is definitely working with Swift with the whole idea of the CCIP protocol, the cross-chain interoperability protocol that goes back into what I was talking about before, which is why Chainlink is my biggest position, right? Not garbage like Ripple. Because I just understand that they already are the dominant player in the Oracle space, and they already have real world utility, right? So it just makes more sense to go from that perspective in regards to like what Chainlink is trying to do. They're dominating the DeFi space, verifiable randomness functions that they have for NFTs and for gaming. Literally the pricing oracles. They literally like they have it down packed. They're killing the game. Can you check out Go Meet on the charts and tell me what you think? Yeah, we could pull that up. Let's see what's going on here. And look at this. I said I was gonna be 30 minutes. I end up being here for an hour and a half. Well, I haven't been live in a while, so what's the symbol? What's the symbol for Go Meet? Thank you, Diamond D. Credit default swaps are just simply an insurance policy in the event that a company goes, they're basically they become insolvent. I could definitely go into a deeper video. I think I already have a video on my channel talking about derivatives and credit default swaps. GOMT. But that I'll be here for like at least a half an hour breaking that down to you. So I can do that right now. But I believe I have a video. I'm assuming so. Let's see. GOMT. I never even heard of that. GOMT. Is that a stock or a cryptocurrency? It looks like it's a crypto. Go Meet. Man, this looks like some garbage. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong place. Um, is that a cryptocurrency, Scotty Pimpin? Interesting. So crypto, yeah, I'm looking at it on a chart, and I never even heard of this thing before. Um, let's look here on CoinMarketCap. I never even seen this before. Go Meet. Well, look at the market cap. This is tiny. Listen, this is tiny. They don't even have no real market yet. I would have to look into this. I would have to look into it. I don't like what exactly does it do? What's the token? It looks like it's a token. Like, because remember, the whole idea of a token is to incentivize some type of behavior within the network, right? So, I would have to look into this. And let's look at the market to see where it's trading at. It's only on Bitmart. Yeah. I ain't gonna lie, man. It don't look too good. It looked like the typical, token that was created for the purpose of creating a crypto. So I don't know. I would have to look. I don't want to just dismiss it too quick. I would have to look into it. They have a metaverse where you can shop in the metaverse. Okay. Yeah, I would have to look into this. Like, 'cause I ain't gonna lie, the website looked kind of cheesy. To be honest with you, like it looked like it just looked like the typical stuff you see with scams. But I'm not saying it's a scam or anything. I'm just saying what it looked like. And look at this. GitHub looks dead. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. It look kind of dead, man. I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't want to touch it. Just for like kind of looking at what's going on here. I don't really see nothing going on. I agree 100%, Malik. That's why I focus on stuff like that has utility. Yeah, the repo looks dead. I wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't touch it at all. But guys, we're here for an hour and 30 minutes. I'm gonna wrap it up here. I don't want to be too long. I know we kind of, towards the end talking about Hassan Campbell and Africa and stuff or whatever. But it's cool, man. I like to come here and build with you guys. With that being said, guys, please like the video, share the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Make sure that you set it to all in regards to the notifications. Join my text message list in the description. The number's in the description below. Simply text the word YouTube to that number. If you're looking to do business with me and invest with me, you need to text the word invest to the number in the description below. Also, if you want to follow me on Instagram, click the link in my description below. Do not go and try to search for me on Instagram because you're going to come across a whole bunch of fake profiles that are not me. And then they're going to try to sell you on doing some Forex trading or some stock options trading. And you're going to get scammed. If you want to invest with me, text the word invest to the number in the description below. If you want to join my YouTube message list, text the word YouTube to the number below. If you want to follow me on Instagram, click the link to my Instagram page in the description below. And understand that I will never reach out to you first, nor would I ever ask you for money, okay? Now, if you're interested in joining my community, I am the founder and creator of My Tech Academy, where we cover all things Web3 and crypto, how to buy, sell, store, NFTs, DeFi, you name it, global macro stuff. We have a vibrant community inside of our Slack group. We have a coding bootcamp going on as well. And we also have a free 3-day trial. So you're welcome to come and test it out and see what we have to offer. And again, a link to that is in the description below. That being said, guys, it was beautiful to build with you. I look forward to being here probably tomorrow or the following day and going forward. All right, guys? The consultations also is right on my webpage. Just simply go there, click the link, and you can find everything out you need. All of my information as you need is either texting that number or clicking on that website. Guys, have a blessed and beautiful night.